Before we get started with this review, I got like a minor gripe, and as you can hear, I have no voice. But if you do an Andre the Giant Battle Royal, why in the world do you have somebody who represents the state that and is possibly going to have his last match to only be eliminated? Come on, man. Mark Henry, y'all could have done it. Y'all could have allowed him to have this win. And instead, he didn't fight. He was barely in the match at all. And when he finally got in there, he got eliminated. It was wrong. Then you brought back DDP. And then DDP got eliminated. Then you have Tatanka that came out of nowhere. Absolutely no intro at all. And Tatanka happens to be a legend. And Tatanka gets eliminated, only for Baron Corbin to win. Yeah, for those Baron Corbin fans, you probably rejoiced at this, but honestly, in my opinion, it didn't make any sense. Especially when you know that Mark Henry might not be there next year. Come on, guys. You got some vets that are leaving. Can you at least give them a little bit of respect? Or maybe some dignity? Just saying. What's up, y'all? Naturegirl 30 here, and as you can hear, my voice is pretty much gone. So, and I also have an early flight in the morning, so it's not going to be a really long, detailed review. It's definitely going to be brief. But before I get started with the review, I want to give a shout out to um, Connor, aka Oh My Gosh, you on the Titantron, and you actually have your own WrestleMania moment. Kayfabe. I probably said that wrong, but either or. Congratulations to Connor, dude. You got your WrestleMania moment. You were actually in a reaction shot for WrestleMania 32 and one of the reaction shots in the matches. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. Amazing. But anyway, guys, I'm going to go into the good and then I'm going to the bad. And it's not going to really be detailed after every match because there are some matches that I did miss. I did miss the Divas, the 8 Diva tag. I didn't have a chance to see that when we got there. We got there about 5. So we actually missed that one. We didn't really see Kalisto's match with the U.S. title, but I found out that he won. Um, the one thing that we did end up seeing was Usos. It was a typical, match with the Usos and the Dudley Boys, except that it was in reverse, and the Dudley Boys ended up being the one going through the table. I wasn't really all that enthralled with that match. But besides all that, besides the kickoff, let's go into the pluses. Guys, I like being wrong occasionally, but I was definitely wrong about WrestleMania 32. They really did pull out all stops. They really did pull out a lot of surprises. There's a lot of things we weren't aware of. There was a lot of wonderful spots and a lot of these amazing matches. And there was a lot of wonderful WrestleMania moments that this is something that you just can't honestly not remember. And I know it sounds biased coming from me since I'm actually here and I was able to see it live. But even in a live perspective, there are some negative points, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But honestly, guys, I was amazed. Who would ever thought that Diamond Dallas Page DDP would be in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal? And yeah, and Tatanka was in it too. Didn't really expect him to be there. We finally had a chance to see The Rock, and we had an impromptu match between The Rock and Eric Rowan. It was amazing. It really was. Then it was a return date. The return of John Cena. And honestly, guys, I have never heard such loud cheers of applause for John Cena in such a long time. It seems like that people really did miss him, that the hate is starting to fade off a little bit, maybe just in Texas in general. There were a few haters out there, but let's be honest, it was a huge pop for Cena. Something I haven't heard in a very long time, and it was really refreshing to hear that Cena wasn't getting as much hatred anymore as it has been for the last few years. So it was refreshing to see that. And an amazing moment that we had with the League of Nations when they got their butts handed to them seriously uh, by Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Heartbreak Kid, and Shawn Michaels, and also Mick Foley. I was floored when I actually saw that. Absolutely amazed. I love every bit of that. We saw some freaking legends in the ring all at once. And guys, the matches themselves, there were a lot of amazing matches that I had a chance to witness. By far, the best match of the night, in my opinion, the main event, the true main event, definitely was the Hell in a Cell match. Shane O'Mac he literally took it to the limit. We all predicted that Shane O'Mac would have something up his sleeve, that he wouldn't get involved in something this dangerous, but he really did. He took it to Taker. He made Taker work. And honestly, it was a back and forth. It was amazing. The spot when he jumped off the top of the Hell in a Cell. I actually was able to get that on my phone. And honestly, I'm going to put that up whenever I can. But it was amazing. It was an amazing spot, amazing moment. Um, Seeing that live. And Shane gave it his all. And he has the most respect out of not only the entire arena, but probably everybody in the locker room. Because honestly, he went all out there, and I got a lot of respect for the guy, really do. And Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose gave it. I mean, he played 100% dirty, but in the very end, it was just amazing and so much fun how everybody was counting the suplexes, and it ended up being 13 suplexes in all. And I will admit, the Titantron even kept track. It was kind of funny to watch. The Divas match, and speaking of Divas, the best, the most positive moment of the night for me definitely was the fact that the Divas finally got a new belt. They finally got a new redesigned belt. It is no longer the Divas title. It is the WWE Women's Championship. We finally got a belt that means something. Besides the Women's Championship back in WWF Women's Championship, it's now the WWE Women's Championship. And they gave it to the winner that night. I thought that was great, and not to mention they had Lita represented. They had Lita actually present the belt to the fans before the actual show started, and I thought that was great. I really did. I like being wrong when it comes to this pay-per-view. I like being wrong when it comes to WrestleMania, because WrestleMania is Christmas to every wrestling fan, and they did a great job with that. I can't gush enough about some of these matches and how great they were. Now, let's go into some of the negatives. And unfortunately, there are a few. And I will say this. The biggest negative of the night, well, from a perspective, I will say one of the negatives definitely was the Titantron. The seat where I was, you couldn't really see all the what was going on and everything. But that's just a minor gripe. The biggest disappointment of the night definitely was the main event. You had so many wonderful WrestleMania moments, especially the fact that the women, for the first time ever, had their own entrance. You had Sasha Banks being brought down by Snoop Dogg. You had uh, Charlotte literally wearing a jacket, wearing like the flare wear, like she was seriously wearing the flare wear, going up and down the ramp like a true champ. And actually having Ric Flair, she had pyro. It was amazing. The women's were over the top. And also when it came to the other matches, they held their own. The ladder match itself was definitely, in my opinion, one of the best and most triumphant moments. And I guess I was going into the negative, but I'm going to go back into the positive. The ladder match starting off the entire night was great. Seeing Zack Ryder finally getting his due was a really wonderful WrestleMania moment, not only for the fans, but for Zack Ryder himself. It was long overdue for him to get put over. It really was. And the fact that he was the IC champ after everything he's gone through was great. And the way that that match was put together, it was well executed, well fluid, loved it. I really, really loved that match. And it was a really great way to kick it off. And it really just kept up the pace. It just kept going. It didn't slow down, and I loved that. I really did. But it did have its bad moments. And the biggest, worst moment that decisions that they made was the booking decisions. The booking decisions as well as the order of the card. That was the two biggest negatives. The booking decision for Roman Reigns definitely was the worst decision they've ever made, because they really have done him wrong throughout the few months. He's not a bad competitor. I got no beef for Roman Reigns. It's just the fact that Roman Reigns was not booked properly for him to be a champ. But instead, they made him a champ that night, and there was a lot of disappointed people in the crowd, except for a few kids and maybe a bunch of soccer moms, of course. But other than that, Roman Reigns definitely was not put in a good position to be champ. But he was champ, and it just didn't have a good outcome. Number two, they had the Hell in a Cell match in the middle of the card, which is the biggest mistake, because you're emotionally exhausted. You can't invest yourself into the match at all because you're already spent. And that should have been the match to cap off the night, especially the fact that it was Taker's possibly last WrestleMania. this was something that shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been in the middle. It should have been towards the end. And honestly, I will definitely say this. Some of the matches that we saw were done before, especially AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho. Even though Chris Jericho won this time, and they actually did do an amazing match with some great spots, it was something that was already done, so you weren't completely invested in the match. And most of the matches were very predictable. You actually knew the outcome before the outcome happened. But I will say this, D was definitely on it throughout the entire night. He actually called it right down the middle. There were a lot of rumors about Goldberg being there, as well as rumors about Randy Orton being a part of it, but neither one of them was there that night, which was disappointing. And the second thing was we didn't really see anything about this McMahon or actually see him come down to Shane's aid, especially after what Shane did. But I will say that it was a decent touch when it came to Triple H's entrance. He always has amazing entrances for WrestleMania, especially the fact that he's always coming out as the Skull King. But the interesting twist about it was that we had the Skull Queen instead of the Skull King, and had uh, Stephanie up there as the Skull Queen representing Triple H, and having an entire army of skull heads come down, which I think was actually pretty cool. The entrances were really few and far in between, and usually when you see WrestleMania, you see the amazing entrances. But the only amazing entrances that we did see definitely came from Sasha Banks, Charlotte, and Triple H. And I guess you can, to Undertaker's was a bit underwhelming. You usually see druids, you usually see caskets, you usually see the over-the-top spectacle from coming from Taker. That was the biggest disappointment for me, is because you usually see that coming out of Taker at every WrestleMania, and that was the one thing you look forward to, is his entrance. But his entrance definitely was lackluster. It wasn't anything to really be excited about. But I will say it was an interesting twist with his uniform. It was kind of a mix between Classic Taker and Last Outlaw, which I think was a good touch. Last Outlaw definitely was the beginning of the end, and Classic Taker was at the beginning. So it's kind of great how he meshed the two, and how it was great for him to actually have that costume. I loved it. I really thought it was great. But other than that, the biggest negative of the night definitely was the main event. When it came to Triple H, even though he had an amazing spectacle when it came to his entrance, he was slow as molasses, as well as Roman Reigns. Neither one of them could keep up with each other. And you can tell that Triple H was out of gas really quickly throughout the match. And it was not really his best work. It wasn't his best performance at all, which is a shame. And I think this was probably his last WrestleMania he would be doing for a while, because before it actually did end, you saw Triple H hugging his mom, his mom, his daughters, his family, and everything. But it seems like that was going to probably be his last WrestleMania for a while. But yeah, it was such an underwhelming win for Roman Reigns. Not a lot of people cared, except for those, the diehard Roman Reigns fans. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with Roman Reigns. He just didn't really build him appropriately to actually be a champion. But it was a really bad performance, completely poor when it came to veterans like Triple H. He should know better, and he was extraordinarily slow and very, very sluggish, and something that Triple H would not ever do. But like I said, doing all these matches throughout the years, even though his body's in good shape, his insides are not. And you can tell it's definitely done damage to him over the years, to where he's not as quick as he used to be. And when it comes to Roman Reigns, he had nothing to put him away. I mean, he really didn't. He didn't really know what to do. He didn't really know how to keep up and counter. And he just got slow and awkward. And it just wasn't a match that should have ended the night. It should have been Hell in a Cell. It really should have. And another beef with me is that something as big as the women's title should be announced after the kickoff matches are over, not before the kickoff matches started. Not everybody was there to actually see Lita, and actually see Lita reveal the actual Divas belt. That was the only disappointing thing. I really wish they would have waited until everybody was able to sit down to see this, because this is something that a lot of women have been waiting to see for many years. For those who are huge fans like me of the women's division, I would have loved to actually be able to see that live. But of course, they had to keep going. They probably had time constraints, and they had to do what they had to do. But other than that, guys, my overall thoughts is this. Besides the negative reactions from the main event, and the main event was not great, I liked WrestleMania. I enjoyed it. I actually did enjoy the matches. Amazing spots. I have screamed my head off throughout the entire night. I never expected The Rock to come out there and face Bray Wyatt of all people, and actually be able to see John Cena come out and clean house. And we had to see Stone Cold up close and personal. We actually saw all the Hall of Famers. It was really great. It was amazing. And we had an impromptu match, even though it lasted basically 8 seconds, and they actually did keep count. But other than that, guys, excuse me, I thought it was great. I really did think it was great, and I enjoyed every bit of it. But I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are about this WrestleMania, for those that were there live or for those that actually saw it on a pay-per-view. I want to hear your thoughts, and I want to know how you personally feel about WrestleMania 32, whether you think it sucks or whether you think it should have been better. But I want to hear your overall thoughts. Leave it in the comments below. But other than that, guys, I'm going to dip out because I got an early flight out of here. But other than that, peace out, y'all. I will see y'all later. And stay tuned to Raw.